whatever you have done in your life, whatever you have experienced in your life, on the basis of that, whatever the knowledge you have developed, it is normative. Why it is normative? Because you have never tested it. You have never verified it in a very organized and systematic manner. Rather it goes on a common sense basis कि past में हमने ऐसे किया था, वो work किया था. If I do this time also it will work that. So it is also, let's say that ki objective experiences, let's say that, but they remain more as normative standards because they will lack predictability. So when similarly we build theories and principles on the basis of knowledge, experience, and we do not test them, do not verify them, or we do not construct them in such a way that there is predictability, so that will be considered normative. So many thinkers give let's say their theory just on the basis of their experience. जैसे कोई एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर है और वो पूरा सर्व करता है एज एन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर, रिटायर हो गया, एक बुक लिख दिया. अब वो एक कोई चीज़ अगर वो प्रोपाउंड करता है, कोई आइडिया प्रोपाउंड करता है सपोज, तो वो दैट आइडिया इज नॉर्मेटिव. तो जो क्लासिकल थिंकर्स है, खासकर हेनरी फियोल, गुलिक एंड ओरवेट, they formulated their theory on the basis of whatever they experienced. Now there can be different experience. Different people have different experience. किसी को ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर अच्छा लगता होगा, किसी को अच्छा नहीं लगता होगा. खासकर जो लोग कर्नाटका के होंगे, जन साउदर्न स्टेट्स, जनटेड, बिकॉज यहाँ का टेम्परेचर अच्छा नहीं है, वहाँ का टेम्परेचर ऑलमोस्ट 30 पे ही रहता है नॉर्मल, जनटेड. तो और जो यूपी का है उसके लिए तो अच्छा है. So let's say that different people can have different experience of the same place, right? So how can you say this? That is, there will be lack of science. आप ऐसे layman's की तरह समझो. Normative क्या है? What is normative? Empirical is थोड़ा serious हो जाओ. The empirical is a serious thing. Empirical means that you go for a knowledge construction. You construct the knowledge, not necessarily you test it, but construct the knowledge in such a way that people may not refute. It is difficult to refute. So when it is difficult to refute, it has greater objectivity. This, like any investigating agency, it investigates. Many times their investigation has loopholes. या नॉर्मेटिव थियरी पे बेसिस होता है उनका. नो, जो प्रिज्यूम करते हैं और कोर्ट में प्रूव करने की कोशिश करते हैं, isn't it? They have presumption. How? So there was one case in Supreme Court, you know that, from Kerala, and it's a sensitive matter है. I do not want to take because अभी तो 7 classes हुए हैं बस. So it is, let's say, boy is Muslim, girl was Hindu, and the case was brought by NIA, National Investigating Agency. देखो हमारे देश में तो वैसे ही इंटर कास्ट मैरिज एक्सेप्टेबल नहीं है. इंटर रिलीजियस तो भूल जाओ, ठीक है. सेंसिटिव रहना, नहीं तो राइट भी हो जाएगा. सो बट जब आप अफेयर करते हो ना तो सेंसिटिव थोड़े होते हो आप, isn't it? Anyhow, तो मान लो ऐसा हो गया, तो NIA says किसी the love is not true love, right? NIA का लॉजिक क्या है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में? The love between them is not true love. Right. हाँ, प्रूव करो आप. Right. On what basis you will prove it? Do you have empirical basis to prove it? Right. You do not have empirical basis to prove it. This, because these are something which cannot prove. It's just based on mutual relationship. Right. This. अब आपका स्टैंड सही कैसे साबित हो सकता है? तो मान लो कि केस होता है और थोड़े दिन के बाद डिवोर्स हो गया, तो फिर बोलोगे मैं सही कह रहा था? अजीब बात है। तो लव का मतलब कभी अलग नहीं हो सकते। तो सारे वेस्टर्न कंट्री वाले गलत है फिर? नो, इलन मस्क का तो 11 टाइम्स हो गया है। That is how it is. Anyhow, so ये सब logic you cannot prove it. So there are something about human behavior you cannot prove it. That is how I can say. बट लेट्स से कि कोई और केस है, मान लो कोई मर्डर का केस है या कोई भी ऐसा केस है, आप उसको प्रूफ कर सकते हैं। दिस यू कैन गैदर एविडेंस। चाहे फिर बम ब्लास्ट है, यू कैन गैदर एविडेंस। टेररिस्ट अटैक है, गैदर एविडेंस। कोई टेररिस्ट है, यू कैन गैदर एविडेंस। दिस तो व्हेन यू कैन गैदर एविडेंस, सो दैट इज एम्पिरिकल। दिस you gather evidence, you connect the case, let's say one by one, step by step. You may have watched many such movies, how they connect this. So once you connect it, you establish it. Once you establish it, it is difficult to refute. After all, commission of offense, how it is proved? Yes, this person has committed the offense. This, it is difficult to refute, and that is how court once finds that it is difficult to refute, then the court gives punishment. As long as court finds that it is, listen, not irrefutable, court will not give punishment. Court will say it is there is lack of evidence. That is what empirical, you can say that. Empirical is something which is predictable, objective. Normative is also, let's say, objective and predictable. But if you compare both, the empirical is more objective than normative. This.
Empirical, rational.
Yes. No, rational to normative भी हो सकता है. Merely being rational is not empirical. Try to understand. Rational is तो philosophy भी rational है. Right. Philosophy is a rational science. Right. It is based on rationality and logic. But philosophy, it cannot prove something. This, it is based on rationality and logic, but it cannot prove something. Empirical can even prove something. It goes beyond that. The empirical is also rational, but merely being rational does not mean empirical. That is what you have to understand. This is what I guess. If it is not clear, still we'll try so many times to make it clear later on. It is a dynamic topic, you know that, and the concern is that we have not taught yet since it comes into 19. It emerges, that's it, in 1960s, and we have not taught anything. We have just taught you Wilson, scope, evolution, this whether it is a science or not. But no, we have not given any teaching between what happens. So when we have 1887 to 1950s, so what happens? That gives rise to new public administration, 1960s. So something may have happened. So I will just try to give thin idea on this. Something may have happened. We say it as public administration. So whatever development we had till 50s or 60s, so we can say it as a public administration. That's why they are saying it new public administration. So what is that new they are talking? Isn't it? What is that new they are talking? And why they are talking that? So let's take that there were 2-3 developments. You know that Wilson. So Wilson found public administration on dichotomy. And dichotomy principle. And when he found this on the academy principle, so then classical thinkers, classical approach. Classical approach formulated theories and principles. Those theories and principles were more, let's say that, we can say that, formal and hierarchical. Including Max Weber bureaucracy. Because as we told they had focus on structure, structural side. So what was the structural side? Basically, they try to design organization, its structure, its process, its techniques. They design that. It's a hierarchy. Max Weber bureaucracy is known for hierarchical aspect, formal relationship. So basically, they created formal organization. They went on creating formal and structural organization. The formal and structural organization, that happens. Then let's say that we had developments like Simon, and Simon talks about, let's say that is how we can say that empirical science. Empirical science is also called positivism. Positive science is empirical science. Another name of empirical science is positive science. Then there was another development, 1950s. Let's say welfare state. This, and you know that by that time, this 1950s, public administration was also facing crisis. It started facing crisis. No, crisis of identity, era of challenge. Simply you understand, since NPA developed or was developed in US environment, because Minnowbrook is a place in US, in one university. Minnowbrook name is a place, you can say, in US. So there the conference was held. It is again development in US. So there may be some factors which influence that development. There may be some factors which influence that development. That is what we are trying to do. Just know 2-3 things. First, that till 1950s, even today also, till 1950s, we had a formal structure of administration. That formal structure of administration was hierarchical. Hierarchical, you can say, mechanical, you can say, which you can often face today also if you go to public organizations. Just how there is hierarchy? No. And hierarchy you have to follow. So there is a hierarchical system, and let's say that there is delay in execution of your work. Have you faced delay in your execution of work in any public organization? So you know that how they are rule adherent, rule obedient. Simple, I will tell you. We may have given examples. Since we have to take those examples which you can understand even if you do not know. So let's say that if you detain some children who are, let's say that you carry out raid and you found some children involved in child labor practices. So what you will do? You will put them in rehabilitation center. And then government will pay stipend to them. Government pays stipend to them. जो 400-500 होता होगा जो भी उनको स्टाइपेंड पे किया जाता है. आपको क्या लगता है कितने टाइम पे वो स्टाइपेंड उनको मिलने लगेगा? How long time it will take? Do you think immediately it happens? बिल्कुल नहीं. Right. तो मिनिमम 4 to 5 months. बस. तब तक क्या करेगा बच्चा? उसका फैमिली क्या करेगा? दिस. सो मिनिमम आज की डेट में, पहले तो मिलता था नहीं मिलता था मुझे पता नहीं है. So suppose you carry out a raid, because this is a first-hand experience, we know some of the cases. So you carry out any raid on that, and then let's say that you have to send them in rehabilitation center, children since they are underage, and you give his stipend so that there can be help to that family, because they are working simply to help their family. The government pays certain stipend to them. They will not get that stipend within 3-4 months. It has been shared by one labor officer. This. So labor officer goes and even saying कि अब तो मन नहीं करता है रेड मारने का. Right. Once seeing their plights and conditions, that their family conditions are so bad, that is how a child is forced to work, and government stipend will not be first adequate, and it will not be paid on time. So why you should carry out raid on those hideouts, those places? Anyhow, but that was not the purpose. The purpose is why you take 4-5 months. So there is process and procedure. There is process and procedure, you know that. This is all. It takes time. In Manrega, there used to be, let's say that more than 3 months average time to pay wages before introduction of direct benefit transfer. Before introduction of direct benefit transfer means you are working today, but your wages will be paid after 3 months. This. Once direct benefit transfer has been introduced, DBT, then it is within 15 days we pay. This. So 3 months, let's say, it means that there can be even more months, but 3 months, 4 months you can consider as average. Why it was taking time? This. So that is how process and procedure, it is well established that rules, process and procedure. Delay means bureaucracy is a highly hierarchical organization, and process and procedure result into delay. Now, nowadays within 3 months, government can clear any foreign investment proposal, even within 1 month also. In 2011 and 12, economic survey highlighted that India took 18 months to clear any foreign investment. Foreign investment coming to our country, so you give approval in 18 months. We will highlight when we will take public-private partnership there also. But just we are trying to highlight how bureaucracy in 2011 we are talking after 2 decades of new economic policy. और ये हम जो बात कर रहे हैं वो तो 60s का है. This is how. It is well proven that bureaucracy, formal organization, formal structure, it results into lots of delay. It results into lots of delay in execution of work. This is one aspect. And it was the main characteristics of administration. Hence, it was not able to perform as per the needs of the people. Like say welfare development you want. Even in our country, we have welfare development 1950s, after independence. We wanted to bring rapid socio-economic development, 5-year plan, blah, blah things. This. So, on the one hand, you promise for development, New Deal program, welfare to people in US, and on the other hand, you are failing to perform. So this is called administrative lag between what you promise and what you deliver. That increases the dissatisfaction of people. The people become highly dissatisfied. That was one factor for emergence of new public administration. Then US was facing other problems. There were some internal problems in US. Right. And those internal problems also proved that administration was not able to perform or not able to deal against those emerging situations. So you should know that there was movement called civil rights movement in US, and civil rights movement also resulted into assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. At the same time, you know that there was also assassination of US president, right, John F. Kennedy. So there was also assassination of US president. So that happened, Vietnam War, and people were protesting, let's say that. In US, they were protesting against that war. So in US within, there were other challenges, including unemployment in US, the youth, etc. They were highly dissatisfied, and discipline was also in crisis. So basically, it was a crisis-ridden development, and that crisis, let's say, link goes back to Wilson time also. Yes, the idea of Wilson, dichotomy concept, formal administration, hierarchical administration, and let's say that developments in US, these things were not, means administration was not able to deliver, and since it was not able to deliver, so there, this is how young scholars in one university met at Minnowbrook. They were in their 30s. This means they are very young scholars in their 30s. They met at Minnowbrook and they tried to redefine public administration. This by giving goals and anti-goals. Means they say that the public administration should be able to solve the problems of society. It should not theorize, rather it should solve the problems of society. The first 50 years, basically what they were trying to do from Simon Wilson to Simon, you see, they were trying to focus on inside organization. As we have told that, the idea was that to run government efficiently, first you should have efficient organization. Their focus was inside organization. Therefore, they failed to focus on whether organization was solving the problems of society. Rather, it was presumed that once organization is able to achieve efficiency, it will be able to solve the problems of society. So, focus of administration remained more means oriented, it is called, means oriented rather than goal oriented. This, and it is not necessary that if administration is efficient, it will be able to solve the problems of society, because being efficient is one thing and solving problem is another thing, because there are external factors also, many other factors also. So that is how the background you can consider of new public administration, which we can say in more formal way, this is more in general way. So the context we say as external, we say as internal. Crisis ridden. So when crisis happens in US, different types of crisis-like situation. So that make people angry also, aggressive also. This is how it comes. The young scholars became quite angry and aggressive about the status of public administration, led by Dwight Waldo. The Dwight reversals. So reversals related to this is how that US started experiencing lots of casualties. The people protested in US. That protest also, let's say that, plus assassination, civil rights movement also, almost a chaotic environment in US. Yes, and they blamed it for, they blamed all these things to public administration. You know that it is not today only, in past also, let's say. The people think that it is the public administration which should solve the problems. It was not able to address all those problems, etc. That is how they try to solve the problems, and that was the context. This. Then the thinkers who were associated with this, the names we can consider. These are just for basic knowledge. This is what term NPA was given by Frank Marini. Dwight Waldo was the main thinker of this NPA, who presided the conference. And then we have Golumbivsky. He gave those 3 NT goals. And this called George Frederickson. So he gave a term called first reinvention. He says that new public administration was first reinvention, and new public management was second reinvention. This reinvention term is popular in public administration. Reinvention is a radical new development, you can say. After 5 decades of public administration, they were trying to reinvent something new. And that is how we can consider about new public administration as far as context is concerned. Its context goes back to Wilson, to Simon. This you should know that. And they try to review or assess all the developments in public administration so far. And they criticized and rejected all those developments. Means in a way you should know that they rejected Wilson, Max Weber and Simon. That is how. So they were so radical because Wilson, that big thinker, founder. Max Weber, again, that one of the greatest thinkers, you can say. And Simon is the most important thinker from empirical perspective. So they rejected all of them. Why they rejected? Because they wanted to make public administration a more relevant subject. and a more relevant institution which should be able to solve the problems of society. And it can solve the problems of society only when if it goes in people. It should not remain in office. You should know that. Generally, bureaucratic life is an office environment, isn't it? The office you have, you remain confined in office, and all these files and process and procedures, this is how. So somehow there is alienation, you know that. There is sense of alienation, you can say. Let's say administration, between administration and people. That is how bureaucracy is criticized for. That it remains in its own silo, let's say that mentality, silo environment. There is alienation because you do not want to go in public, remain in public, talk and solve their problems. Rather than you want to live your life, that is called aristocratic elite life, bureaucracy. अब तो काफ़ी चीज़ें चेंज हो गई हैं, फिर भी अभी भी वैसा ही कल्चर है. लेट्स से दैट some bureaucrats are quite, let's say, public oriented, but most of the bureaucrats enjoy their life in their office, in their bungalow, isn't it? So that is what we can consider. That is how they are concerned, that they want administration to be in society, be action oriented, be people oriented. But traditional administration was, bureaucratic administration was more elite oriented, more inward looking. तो ये सब चीज़ें आपको थोड़ा अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. धीरे धीरे आपको पता चलेगा कि ब्यूरोक्रेसी एक्चुअल में क्या था या क्या है, isn't it? So as of now your concern is people. अभी लोग ही माइंड में आते हैं, isn't it? The day you get selection, thereafter only you remain in mind, isn't it? You are more, let's say, occupied with salary, incentive, visits, this place, that place, this lifestyle, that lifestyle. This is how it is. People become secondary. So gradually we'll tell you how it is. Anyhow, so you may have heard the story that 5 IAS officers went to Paris, France, from Chandigarh. Have you heard this? Yes. The 5 IAS officers went to France, Chandigarh, from Chandigarh. It was an architectural visit. Architectural visit. So to see the architecture of France. Right. पता नहीं कि वो गूगल होके भी हो सकता था कि नहीं, मुझे नहीं पता है. ठीक है. Then a hotel was booked. When they reached there, they found कि hotel was not at good site. मतलब sightseeing, let's say. This is how it is. Then a new hotel was booked with, let's say, higher cost. High cost, you can say that. And they stayed there. They overstayed. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता. Right. They also overstayed. And the head of the team overstayed one more day because he is the head. This. Anyhow. तो अच्छा खासा बिल बनाया उन्होंने. Right? ये बिल किसका है? गवर्नमेंट का है. लोगों का पैसा है. गवर्नमेंट का नहीं है. उन लोगों का भी है जिनके पास घर भी नहीं होगा. वो भी टैक्स पेयर्स है. You should know that. Anyhow, forget about this. इतना मोरल होने की अभी ज़रूरत नहीं है. फिर इंडियन एक्सप्रेस ने पता ही क्या किया होगा. इंडियन एक्सप्रेस पब्लिश्ड इट इन 2 सीरीज. एक सीरीज में भी हो सकता था. Part 1, Part 2. So that is how it is. एंड पता ही है कि पूरे नेशनल लेवल पे लेट्स से दे were humiliated, media reaches to them, media asks to them, they do not want to reply to media, this, but certainly this is how. So the question is, ऐसे ही बहुत सारे आपको स्टोरी मिल जाएगा, अच्छे स्टोरी भी है, बट आपको इस तरह के बहुत सारे इंसिडेंट्स मिल जाएगा ब्यूरोक्रेट्स. Yes. So the question is, this is how we can say that कि bureaucracy, let's say, from inside, and that is what, let's say, people have developed a disenchantment. Yet people have developed disenchantment not only against bureaucracy but also against government, against public organizations, because they know that they do not work for them. If they work for them, they feel quite happy. They feel even they have this unbelievable thing कि ऐसा भी होता है, isn't it? So basically this is what you can say we are talking today, but they were talking that time. And that was the context you can consider of new public administration. And this is, I guess, you will be able to relate it, what we are trying to say in this. So let's write on this. The new public administration. The new public administration emerged during 1960s. Emerged during 1960s as a crisis-ridden development. As a crisis-ridden development. Crisis-ridden development to solve the problems of society. To solve the problems of society by redefining public administration. By redefining public administration in terms of 3 NT goals and 5 goals. In terms of 3 NT goals and 5 goals. 5 goals which George Frederickson considered. Which George Frederickson considered as the first reinvention of government. As the first reinvention of government. Change paragraph. New public administration was first major development. New public administration was first major development. First major development in over 5 decades of public administration. In over 5 decades of public administration, which forcefully tried to redefine public administration, especially goals of public administration, that what it should do, as against means of public administration, which remained focus of classical approach and behavioral approach. Context of new public administration. Context of emergence of new public administration. Context of emergence of new public administration. There were two broad contexts. First, external factor. Second, internal factor. External factor. Second, internal factor. Next, in external factor, it was led by. In external factor, it was led by first, bureaucratic administration, which was not considered suitable for change in administration. Next, change in administration, change in society rather. Bureaucratic administration which was not considered suitable for change in society. Next, formal and mechanical organization. Formal and mechanical organization by classical thinkers, including scientific management. Next, too much focus on means rather than ends. Too much focus on means rather than ends. Next, disciplinary crisis. That is, public administration as a discipline was experiencing crisis, highlighted by John Henry report, 1967. There was also Philadelphia Conference. Yes. Next point just is you can write like in external factor. There was also Philadelphia Conference in 1967. Which tried to assess the role of public administration. Next, the internal factors. As mentioned above. Change paragraph. As mentioned above means you can write yourself. Let's write next. So, these factors had created a chaotic environment. In US. And public administration failed to respond, which created a very high level of dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction in people, especially young scholars, who met at Minnowbrook in 1968. to redefine the role of public administration. Through 3 NT goals and 5 goals. Through 3 NT goals and 5 goals. So let's so that is the main contribution of new public administration. So they talk about 5 goals. That is the main aspect. Strategies, they are not main aspect. So we may talk, you may not talk, not a problem. Main thing is that 5 goals that I give, because means and ends, we don't know to what extent you understand. This means are related to something, the tools and techniques. Theories are more as means to solve any problem. This you should know. So when scientific management, classical theory, Max Weber bureaucracy, you are focusing on means, not on goals. The goals of society, you can say, as I told you, that the goals of society can always be, it depends which society you talk about this. So goals can always be, let's say, whether people have adequate livelihood, social justice, this is how can say welfare, development, employment, all blah blah things. So you can establish good organizations, but those organizations, let's say, may not necessarily deliver. It's like say, suppose you open educational institutions. The educational institutions can give education, they cannot provide employment. This, even if people get education, but they are not getting employment, so then they will not be satisfied. This, so employment generation is an important, let's say, it should be important goal, not only opening educational institutions. This, so that way, this is how they argue, let's say, are you solving the problems of society? And problems of society can be so many things, you know that. Like say, water crisis going on in the society, you know that. So are you able to, let's say, solve the water crisis? This. So that way we can consider. You may have many theories related to water management. Isn't it? You may have many theories related to water management, but उस theory का हम क्या करेंगे? Ultimately, you have to solve water crisis. And water crisis solving is a very challenging task. वो theory में fail to work. Because हमारे यहाँ क्या है? Borewells है. Isn't it? हर आदमी के घर में जिसके पास पैसा है उसके पास बोरवेल है, उसका अपना पानी है. Isn't it? This is how can say that. आप बोरवेल बंद करवा दो, देखो क्या होता है. और हो सकता है जो बंद करवाने वाला है उसके घर में भी बोरवेल है. तो मैटर तो वहीं खत्म हो गया फिर. Isn't it? क्या सोल्यूशन होगा? So you cannot solve it. Solving is a very big deal. Right? It demands a very radical approach. This. The water crisis will remain. So you may give lots of theories. You can open so many institutions on research of water, isn't it? But ultimately, if you are not solving it, they are of no use, you know that. That is how they are trying to say. For 50 years, you were trying to develop theories, but you are not solving the problems. Hence, whatever the theories they developed, they rejected, which we say as anti-goals. Yes, whatever the theories they developed, they rejected, which we say as anti-goals, which will explain that what is positivism, etc. Anti-technical. Anti-technical means anti-Taylor. They reject Taylor's scientific management. This. Then anti-hierarchical. They reject hierarchy. This, that aspect you can consider. Then they try to redefine the role of public administration. This, the goals, let's say that. Again, we will explain, but some terms have obvious meaning, at least citizen-centric you can understand. Social justice you can understand, change you can understand, value and relevance, yes, value is something you can say that. You should, let's say, adopt any such methods and approach, which should be based on the values of the society you can understand in that way, although it is not that value. It is a bit technical, I will talk. Let's say it is called value laden and it is called value free. This. So gradually technicality will be introduced of the subject. Then the key, how you can solve it, the goals they have given, the strategies they talk that how you should solve. So you should solve by democratizing, delegation, decentralization and debureaucratization. What are they? So at least first three terms you can understand. What is debureaucratization? So debureaucratization means simply reducing the role of bureaucracy. This. Reducing the role of bureaucracy, reducing the bureaucratic hurdles, reducing those rules and processes, steps, hierarchy. So you need to cut down them, the clutters, let's say that. You need to cut down the clutters, the hierarchies, the rules, the process, and let's say too much role of bureaucracy. That is called debureaucratization. means simply limiting the role of bureaucracy. Yes. Democratization means, let's say, citizens should also participate. You can say that 73rd Amendment, social audit, RTI nowadays we have. That is an act of democratization. Delegation means power should also be shifted. Yesterday we told about devolution. Delegation is another name of devolution you can consider. The power should shift. If you limit bureaucracy, the power will shift from bureaucracy. The power should shift to other, let's say, that stakeholders in society. They can be even civil society, people, and other we can consider. And that is what, let's say, it may result into decentralization. This power going to the local level, you can say. So that is what democratization, decentralization, delegation, debureaucratization, they will talk. And that we can say that they were trying to redefine by this way. This, of which we can say that this is a bit technical. What they say, anti-positivism. Anti-positivism, one means, let's say, its one meaning is called they rejected dichotomy. You know that Dwight Waldo also rejected dichotomy. So NPA rejects separation between politics and administration. Because when we talk about democratization, the democratization will be, it's both combination of politics and administration, you know that. This, you cannot separate it, this, you cannot separate, already lots of things we have told. That aspect. So that is how they try to reject. Positivism I will explain while dictating it further. The second aspect of positivism is basically they reject empirical method. Right. We were talking that public administration should be empirical science, and here you are hearing that they reject empirical method. So empirical का negative side भी है. Yes. Empirical का negative side ये है कि you become too much scientific. When you become too much scientific, that also results into alienation from society. This. It is a long debate, let's say, what is empiricism means empirical negative aspect. So you start playing with data, isn't it? You start playing with data, let's say, evidence, data. So too much of, let's say, emphasis on data and evidence may result into elimination of human emotions. Can we say that? You become more evidence driven rather than people driven. So that is how we can say, that is how they are saying that you should become more people driven, not data driven, not, let's say, rationality driven. And that is how they also criticize the empirical method, and they will support normative method. So value laden, value, the term is related to normative. That is how they will talk. Value laden, value free. I think I do not want to bring you into this debate, right? Even if you do not understand, it's okay today. Like these terms, later on we'll tell you that what is value laden and value free. This. Many a time when you become very rational, so what people can say? You are emotionless. No. This is how stone-hearted. हिंदी में अच्छा लगेगा बोलने में, स्टोन हार्टेड इंग्लिश में अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. Right. So the question is that if you become, right, let's say that rational, isn't it? So if you are not emotional, so patthar dil. This is how people say that. Too much of scientificism may result into this. That is what they are critical of. That is what they criticize. This. So you have to basically, let's say, just say, मान लो water crisis है. How you will try to solve? So you will bring lots of scientificism in that. That will not solve the problem. You need to solve the problem as per your socio-cultural factors. The reality of the society, the socio-cultural factors. This, because Indian socio-cultural factors are different. The methods you will bring will be from US. But US socio-cultural factors are different. Our socio-cultural factors are different. This. So there you have a planned city, you do not have a planned city. We don't have a planned city. No any city is planned city except Chandigarh. This. So that is how, let's say, you have to understand. So when they are saying that they are rejecting positivism, they are basically saying this. Your solution of society should be from society itself, society oriented, rather than something you have brought an empirical method, a scientific method from somewhere else, and you try to implement it. This. So people oriented solution. This. So that way we can consider. So that is how you can understand, although we will try to later on also explain it. By this is how they try to redefine public administration. Right? So when they redefine public administration, although while dictating I will explain them more. So when just we want to give a view on this, what happens, let's say, when NPA emerged because of that by 1960s. 5 goals, anti-goals, it emerged, let's say that. And it introduced, let's say, in public administration, goal orientation, flexibility, less hierarchy, citizen orientation. Means it tries to bridge the gap between the government and the governed. This, the government and the governed, let's say, they try to bridge the gap between them. This. And let's because it wants you to go to society. It wants you to become more citizen oriented. And it was radical in perspectives. It had its impact on public administration, especially in terms of, let's say, making public administration more society oriented, citizen oriented. And it also, let's say, that it gave social justice. The social justice has not because of just new public administration. You know that social justice thereafter has become an important objective even in your paper 2nd of GS. Social justice as a topic has also been mentioned. The social justice has become a popular objective of the state. And that is how we can see its contribution. Although it was not first to talk or last to talk on social justice. In fact, side by side, there was also John Rawls who published his theory of justice. And in his theory of justice, he also talked about social justice, 1963. And that was also, let's say, that one influence. So Dwight Waldo, John Rawls, although he is not in the syllabus of public administration, so we do not just teach him, but just we mention. The 1960s, there were emphasis on social justice. At the same time, let's say that when it says you should have become normative orientation, basically in NPA is trying to bring norms and values and morality in public administration. So it brings, let's say, more of ethics, let's say that aspect. The ethical aspect is that administrators should be concerned about problems of society. They should try to solve the problems of society. Right. Instead of remaining, let's say that alienated, they should try to solve the problems of society. And that was its contribution, that was its impact. However, you know that after 60s, rather it was public choice approach which made impact on public administration, not, let's say, new public administration. This, which we'll talk later on. But then to further mark its legacy, let's say, another Minnowbrook conference was held, Minnowbrook 2nd, 1988. After 20 years. So when it was held after 20 years, it means that Minnowbrook remains important. That's why the second conference was held. Then we have to understand that how first conference was different from second conference. This, how it was different. This, and then again after 20 years, after 20 years, again we had this, the third conference, then one more added, isn't it? पहले तो 2 ही का difference जानना होता था. You have to know the difference between all the 3. and all the three, so what is their contribution, that aspect you can say. और अगर 4 साल और so fourth भी आने वाला है already उसके ऊपर paper means they have released the paper on that research paper on Minnowbrook fourth conference. Yes, so it becomes a legacy. So this is how we have to know this, how that legacy is, plus weaknesses, etc. We have to know, was it really able to define the goals of the public administration, this and that. This is what we have to talk. So let's write on this. The 3 NT goals and 5 goals. The 3 NT goals and 5 goals were the main contribution of Minnowbrook Conference first, which are also considered the main characteristics of new public administration. That is, new public administration is synonymous with Minnowbrook Conference first. Right? So there is one rider, that you should know. When we ask question, कि NPA के बारे में पूछा जाता है question, those who do not understand, they will also write this and this. But NPA is not known by second and third conference. Second and third conferences are just to mark the legacy of first. So when NPA emerged because of first. Your talk should be focused to this. When the question has the term NPA, it talks anything related to NPA. Your focus will be, entire debate will be on this aspect. They are not asking this and that. This. So the foundation, because when NPA emerged, they even did not know कि future में 20 years के बाद conference होगा. और उन्होंने ऐसा कुछ बोला नहीं था कि 20 years के बाद होना चाहिए. This, वो तो 10 years के बाद भी हो सकता है, 30 years के बाद भी हो सकता है. So that's why this you should understand, when they ask question on NPA, the NPA means Minnowbrook Conference first. That's why both, let's say, be it emergence, contribution, we talk Minnowbrook Conference first or NPA, it's same. So that way we can consider it. So let's write on this. The 3 NT goals. First, let's write anti-positivism. It means rejection of value-free approach. Value-free approach, which included rejection of first, politics administration dichotomy, and second, positivism of Herbert Simon. Positivism of Herbert Simon. Right? This. Let me try to explain कि what does it mean. Politics administration dichotomy तो आपको समझ में आता होगा. वो value free कैसे है? So when you bring separation of administration from politics, and we told that कि politics is goal oriented, administration is means oriented, anything that is goal oriented is value oriented also. So when you separate value from means, it becomes value free. When you separate politics from administration, it becomes value free approach. That is how you should understand. Now, how Simon is value free or positivism is value free, what does it mean? And value laden, what does it mean? Right. So, मान लो कि in family at times it may happen, isn't it? किसी ने पूछा कि whether this food is tasty, तो आप whether you reply means your reply is purely what the reaction your tongue gets, or it is also based on making that person happy. No, depending on situation. Right. So you may not really give your response purely on the basis of your tongue experience, isn't it? Even if your tongue experience is bad, you may tell that it is yeah, good nahi hai to so, isn't it? This balancing act. Right. If you are not responding the way your tongue has experienced, then you are value laden. If you are responding as per what your tongue has experienced, you are value free. Yes. What is value free means? Value free means telling what you observe without adding yourself. Right. Let me debate what exactly, let's say that this self and self is out. When self is in value laden. This is empirical. This what is self is in and self is out. See, all behavioral sciences study human behavior. So they are somehow studying human behavior, so they will, let's say, predict human behavior, talk human behavior. So when they talk human behavior, any person who is talking human behavior, whether he remains neutral, yes, so whether he has kept his own self out, so whatever you observe, exactly you note it down, or you have already something pre-decided, pre-conceived mind. No, अब की बार 400 पार. Right. अरे हाँ, तो सारे सर्वे वालों ने क्या किया? 400 दिखा दिया. Right. No, देखिए मोदी जी 400 है. Right. अरे हाँ, तो सारे सर्वे वाले क्या किया उन्होंने? सब वैल्यू लाडेड. Right. So when they have done research, they have kept in their mind up ki bar 400. This anyhow, that is not in that way, but take sarcastically. What we are trying to say is, देखो कोई भी रिसर्च करेगा तो वो ह्यूमन के ही ऊपर होगा. आप मैटर से तो रिसर्च कर नहीं रहे हो, वो तो फिजिक्स हो जाएगा. So you are doing research on human and you are also a human. So whatever you are saying, whatever you are writing, whether you have also yourself involved in that, right? You feel कि ये अच्छा है, जैसे public ad अच्छा subject, so yourself is involved, isn't it? You like it, yourself is involved. Similarly, other self is involved, इसको और subject अच्छा लगता है, तो you are a value laden person. Yes. But other people will give you advice on value free aspect. Non-public ad wala, isn't it? He will be relatively value free. So as long as your self is involved, right? In fact, let's see what you like. अब जैसे फिलॉसफी का किसी ने बोला, फिलॉसफी है, तो किसी को लगता है कि यूटिलिटेरियंस को लगता है कि ह्यूमन नेचर सेल्फ इंटरेस्टेड होता है, और कांट को लगता है कि ह्यूमन नेचर सेल्फलेस होता है. आप प्रूफ तो नहीं कर सकते ना. कैन यू प्रूव? नो. It is based on logic, right? And this is what you may also have certain preference to that logic. This is what you should understand. कि human behavior, when you are saying anything, taking any decision, in that your decision, yourself is involved, so you will not be completely objective. That's why there is a concept of avoiding conflict of interest. Judges recuse themselves. You may have heard. Let's say there is any judge and any case has come. That case may involve any relatives. He will recuse himself. He will not give that judgment. Why? Conflict of, what is that conflict of interest? Because his self may not remain neutral, because there is a link with his self with another self, his relatives. So since relatives you have, so relatives you can have close relation. That is how it is expected that you may not be neutral. You may not remain value free. You can become value laden. That is how, let's say, that you can consider. But they have to give their judgment, which can be value free judgment, objective judgment. This not value laden judgment. And that is how the relationship. So when you become value free, you, let's say, you become alienated another way. You become completely objective. When you become purely objective, so what will happen? This. देखो, महाराष्ट्र में एक रेशनलिस्ट का मर्डर हो गया, पता है ना? आज नहीं, बहुत पहले, था बोलकर. बस अगर आप रेशनलिस्ट बन जाओगे अपने घर में ना, तो घर से लोग निकाल देंगे आप. ऐसा नहीं होगा, बट एनी हाउ. Rationalist. No. The rationalist, when you become, तो you will not follow many things जो ये हाथ में आपने बांध रखा है. Isn't it? आप फॉलो नहीं करोगे. बहुत सारे और चीजें होते हैं. शाम को पैसा मत दो, पैसा रुकेगा नहीं. अरे आएगा तो रुक जाएगा. नहीं आओ, आरबीआई को सारा एटीएम बंद कर देना चाहिए शाम को. बट ये सब कहावत है हमारे इधर नॉर्थ इंडिया में. साउथ इंडिया का कुछ और होगा. Isn't it? सो ये सारी चीजें जो सोसाइटी में होता है, राइट, इफ यू बिकम रैशनल, तो क्या होगा? डेली कन्फ्लिक्ट होगा आपके फैमिली में. बस that is how you should know that when you become highly empirical, many a time you get alienated, because society is emotional also. It's socio-cultural things, let's say, relative that ki culture is also relative. Western culture is different, our culture is different. This, that is how they have criticized them. Gradually you will know that, you see, you as an administrator, you have to also respect emotions of people. You have to respect cultures of people, because you have to work in that environment. So that is how, since they say you become society oriented, that is how they are saying that we should be value laden rather than value free. This, and hence they will advocate normative method rather than empirical one. Yes. अब फिर बात आ जाती है कि एफिशिएंसी क्या है. What is efficiency? तो उनके लिए एफिशिएंसी वाल्डो ने दिया था सोशल एफिशिएंसी. this. You should know, just to reduce the debate, why we have given reservation. The reservation is we are trying to achieve social efficiency. Yes. तो efficiency क्या है? The efficiency is performance, output. But society को output नहीं चाहिए. Society को उनका problem solve होना चाहिए. Able to understand? कैसे सॉल्व करते हो ठीक है, सोसाइटी डज नॉट हैव द कंसर्न, बट सोसाइटी शुड गेट इट्स प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व. एंड प्रॉब्लम क्या है? उसको भी एम्प्लॉयमेंट मिलना चाहिए, जॉब मिलना चाहिए. जॉब मिलेगा कैसे? तो आप बोलोगे ओपन कंपटीशन. तो ओपन कंपटीशन में क्वालिफाई कौन करेगा? जो ओल्ड राजेंद्र नगर में रहता है. Anyhow, those who have resources, very clear. Resources, repeated attempts, right? Repeated attempts, repeated test series, multiple test series, mocks, this, that. कौन करेगा? जिसके पास पैसा है. And they will qualify. Don't feel hurt by all these things. Is it merit? तो ये मेरिट नहीं होता है. दिस थियरी हैज बीन आल्सो रिजेक्टेड. जब आप रिजर्वेशन का डिबेट पढ़ोगे तो आपको ये सब चीजें समझ में आ जाएगा. राइट. तो सोसाइटी हैज रिजेक्टेड दिस क्वांटिटेटिव मेरिट. इसको बोलते हैं क्वांटिटेटिव मेरिट, नॉट क्वालिटेटिव मेरिट. राइट. तो वैल्यू लैडन में अफेक्ट मेरिट in terms of empirical aspect, but they do not want to achieve that. They want to achieve social merit. Right? One day I will explain somewhere this. It is not a time to explain. Somewhere I will tell you about what is this aspect. So there is social merit. You should know that. That is the idea they have. That is what social justice, how the social justice will come. How will deliver social justice? ठीक है, चलो बता देते हैं. This is our education system, right? In which you have Doon school, DPS school और जो elite schools होंगे, right? उसके बाद आपको मान लो इधर केंद्रीय विद्यालय होगा और कुछ और अच्छे गवर्नमेंट स्कूल होंगे. राइट. उसके बाद रेस्ट पब्लिक स्कूल. यस. और इधर आपके मिड डे मील स्कूल भी है. राइट. सो एमसीडी वाला स्कूल जिसमें बिल्डिंग नहीं होता है, सिर्फ स्कूल होता है. राइट. दिस इज द स्ट्रक्चर वी हैव ऑफ आवर एजुकेशन. डोंट फील हर्ट, इसलिए कि too early to tell, but since it has come that you'll understand social justice value laden क्या होता है. अब आप क्या करते हो? So they will qualify, no? They will get their degrees, right? तो उसमें dominate कौन, degrees कौन dominate करेगा? Right? Obviously है कि they will hold all top positions. They will hold all top positions. इसलिए कि ये तो काफी स्ट्रगल करेगा ना. मान लो 24 आवर पढ़ता है, रिक्शा पुलर का बच्चा IAS बन गया, स्टोरी छप गया हिंदुस्तान टाइम्स में. दिस इज हाउ इट इज. तो डोंट यू थिंक दैट कि जो टॉप पोजीशन, ये सारा जो मेरिट सिस्टम है, कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन है, ये एक्चुअल में कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन नहीं है. Because it brings only minority of people in that competitive examination, not majority of, let's say that youth in that competitive examination, and they have disadvantage. क्या disadvantage? ये पूरे लाइफ स्ट्रगल करेगा इंग्लिश में और ये इंग्लिश ही पढ़ा है. ठीक है. तो कैट एग्जामिनेशन में कौन क्वालिफाई करेगा भाई? ऐसे ही एडवांटेज है. This. So that is, there are so many challenges, you know that. So now what happens that कि you qualify on the basis of merit और आप इनको सर्व करोगे, जो जिस स्टेटस से वो बिलोंग करते हैं ना, तो you want to serve them, right? So you will uplift them, serve them, and then after 50 years they will become, let's say, qualified to appear in competitive examination. तो 50 years आपके लिए इंतजार करेगा. So what you will do? You will directly help them. That is called reservation. That is social efficiency. To include them in the process rather than you get recruited by merit and you will serve them, then social justice. It is not social justice. Yes. The society has to decide. That is how definition of efficiency has been rejected, let's say, quantitative one. That is how merit system you can consider. And you have lots of schemes and programs, उससे ये structure change नहीं होगा. आप यहाँ पे बहुत सारे स्कीम लेके आ जाओ, मिड डे मील स्कीम, सर्व शिक्षा अभियान, ब्ला ब्ला ब्ला, बट ये स्ट्रक्चर आप चेंज मत करो. Yes. The structure is creating inequality in the society. Unless you address a structural problem, inequality will not be addressed. And when inequality will not be addressed, equity will not be achieved. This. That is, they have the concern. So when they are talking social justice, they are talking normative aspect, they have this in mind. This. And that is how the idea you can consider. That is the idea of Amartya Sen also, capability approach. This. So they have, and you will study your GS paper, BK Pavitra Judgment 1, BK Pavitra Judgment 2nd, where Supreme Court has gone into defining this social efficiency, inclusive equality, substantive equality, inclusive governance. That is very good case, you know that, which it defined. Anyhow, let's come to this. So that is what normative aspect they have in their mind. This structurally society will not change by bringing some schemes and programs, unless you bring structural change in society. Because that is how rich remains rich, rich becomes richer, poor remains. This, the divide in the society. This. How will address it? So this is not merit and efficiency. Anyhow, let's come to our point we were talking. So I guess you understand value laden and value free approach. This.
But how can this structure be changed to the equality level?
अच्छी बात. When you will focus to solve that problem. If you do not want to solve that problem, so it will not be solved. Other countries have done it. We have not done it. We enjoy IITs. We enjoy elite institutions. This you should know that. But we fail to establish a uniform standard of education for all. This, you glorify IITs. This. That is how it is. So why you are not solving? चले जाओ आप US में. All schools are same. आप किसी स्कूल में पढ़ो. Do you have that system? Why you cannot have that system? But उस तरह का सोच होगा तभी तो होगा. Right. This. तो उस तरह का सोच तो है नहीं. Sorry to say that. अभी तो दूसरे तरीके का सोच चल रहा है. पता है आपको. तो we cannot have a society where people can give you money in the name of religion, but they cannot give you money in the name of education. Yes. This you should know. There can be a nationwide movement to build something by, let's say that, collecting chanda. But there cannot be a nationwide movement to build schools. This you have to understand. This is a society. तो आप क्या कर सकते हो? सोसाइटी को यही अच्छा लगता है. स्कूल्स नहीं है तो अच्छा है. This. So if you want to solve, then it will be solved. Otherwise, it will not be solved, and there will be challenge. Why you want to maintain the differences in these schools? क्यों? Why you want to maintain the difference? इसलिए कि सारे ये जो higher लोग हैं, they are the policy makers ना. So they will be themselves, let's say, not supporting this. Society में divide है. This elite mass model, one day will teach you about policy making. This, so those people who belong to elite society, mass से कभी उसका interface नहीं हुआ. मास से उसका कोई कनेक्शन नहीं है. दिस कनेक्शन है भी तो 2-4 एक्सेप्शन वाला कनेक्शन है. एक आईएएस ऑफिसर ने रोड बनवा दिया, एक आईएएस ऑफिसर ने नाला बनवा दिया, ऐसे ही है, isn't it? वो रूल तो नहीं है ना. It should be the rule. So why you will teach different syllabus, different standards of teaching in the schools to create different society? That is a serious level of inequality, which you cannot solve by merely some programs and schemes. This. But that concern we do not have. ना अभी तो आज के डेट में ये सब डिस्कोर्स नहीं है. पता ही है क्या चल रहा है सारे स्टेट्स में. दिस आपको पता है ना कि गवर्नमेंट बन गई तो उसको गिराना है. अजीब बात है. तो गवर्नमेंट इलेक्शन के बाद भी कोई गारंटी नहीं है कि वो लोगों को गवर्न कर रहे हैं ना. इलेक्शन के बाद भी क्या चल रहा है देख ही रहे हो आप. नया डेवलपमेंट ये सारा. दिस so that when government you are to, let's say, form it, or let's say that ki remove that government, when focus is there. जब महाराष्ट्र में ये सारा नाटक चल रहा है तो आपको लगता है कि गवर्नमेंट विल फोकस ऑन गवर्नेंस ऑफ द स्टेट? विल इट फोकस? आप एक सब्जेक्ट पढ़ने के लिए कितना फोकस करना पड़ता है. दिस you can imagine that कि just to work, do something serious work, you have to give lots of time. The governance of the state is a very complex time. उनके पास बहुत टाइम है. This, so that is what it is. They will not solve any problem when they want to make and break the government. This. Anyhow, we will get deviated by these things. Gradually, we will talk all these things. Let's write on this. So what we have written? Yes, anti-positivism we wrote it. So I think you may have understood what we are trying to say. This, right? That this is the social structure of the society. The value laden means you need to solve this. Right? Not necessarily being empirical, but by being our society oriented. This is what he will tell. Because you have to achieve social efficiency rather than quantitative efficiency. This was his focus. Right. This, anyhow, let's write next. Anti-technical. Anti-technical means three anti-goals we have. In that we have talked first anti-goal, anti-positivism. Now we are talking anti-technical. It means rejecting mechanical and technique orientation of scientific management and classical theory. On the ground that society is in the process of change. Society is in the process of change. And people have emotions. People have emotions. Hence, they cannot be subordinated to machine. They cannot be subordinated to machine. They cannot be subordinated to machine. You know that ki Taylor cog in machine concept idea you may have heard. Right. So basically Taylor wanted to achieve efficiency by making people like machine. People should work like machine. Machine in the sense that ki let's say ki this is your work, this is 4 hours, you have to work. No break, no nothing, isn't it? No talk to anyone. Just work is given and you achieve efficiency. Are you treating human like machine? मशीन को टास्क दिया जाता है, isn't it? अपसेट कर देते हो, machine will respond. Human is like machine. That is how Taylor one day will talk that ki Taylor scientific management. So what you are trying to do is that ki they develop scientific management, but they say that ki they want that ki human should work like machine. This if human fails to perform, human will be fired. This and formal structural approach, classical it is mechanical. If you have rules, so you get. You do not have rules, so you do not get benefit. How mechanical? So let's take one example in Jharkhand. So one women worker, let's say in Manrega. So one day it happens that ki her thumb does not match with the Aadhaar thumb, whatever she may have given. The thumb mark does not match. What happens? She is denied wages. When she wages, let's say you were denied, she committed suicide. Why she committed suicide? Humiliation. Humiliation. What is that humiliation? You see, the person who is giving wage belongs to that area. All other people, they know that she is she. And she is not from Bangladesh. She is born in that area, she has lived in that area, she is grown to a certain age. She is she. If thumb mark is not matching, then you do not give the wage because this is how the rule says. You become more mechanical. That is how rational makes many a time human mechanical. और मालूम वो मशीन नहीं होता, मशीन सिस्टम नहीं होता, तो वेज तो उसको मिलता. This. So it is not just denial of wages, let's say. Many a time it results into lots of mechanical aspect, let's say. The machines are good, rules are good, but many a time it results into denial of human aspect, you know that. And that is how they are rejecting, that is how they are trying to criticize. You cannot subordinate human to machines. That is how anti-technical they became. Next point, let's write. Anti-hierarchical. Anti-hierarchical. That they rejected Max Weber, bureaucratic approach. Max Weber, bureaucratic approach, as it was not suitable to. It was not suitable to dealing with changes in society. Dealing with changes in society. It was more stability oriented rather than change. It was more stability oriented. Stability oriented rather than change oriented. Change oriented. Hence, by anti-goals, in a way, they rejected Wilson, Taylor, Max Weber, and Herbert Simon. Herbert Simon, which was considered very radical, which was considered very radical, very radical. Next, the 5 goals. The 5 goals. First, value. It means the theory building in public administration. The theory building in public administration. In public administration. The theory building in public administration should be value-laden. Should be value-laden, in bracket, normative. Normative. Rather than value-free. Value-free, in bracket, empirical. Empirical. It means NPA rejected empirical method. NPA rejected empirical method of theory building. Theory building. Next, relevance. Relevance. It means the subject matter for theory building should be relevant to society. The subject matter for theory building should be relevant to society. Relevant to society. Society. That research and studies or theories should solve the problems rather than merely formulating theories for the sake of theory building. Formulating theories for the sake of theory building. For the sake of theory building. Theory building. So basically, as we told you that कि जैसे मान लो वाटर क्राइसिस है तो या पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप प्रॉब्लम्स हैं तो थियरी हमारे देश में बनना चाहिए. ये नहीं कि यूएस का कोई थियरी है तो आप अप्लाई कर रहे हो तो वो उस सोसाइटल कॉन्टेक्स्ट में अप्लाई नहीं होगा तो वो रेलेवेंट नहीं होगा. वो थियरी हो सकता है बेसिकली हमारा सोशियो कल्चरल इकोलॉजिकल फैक्टर डिफरेंट है. यूएस में बोरवेल नहीं होता है बट यहाँ पे बोरवेल कल्चर ही है. सो दैट इज व्हाट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. इट इज नॉट ओनली बोरवेल जस्ट वी आर टॉकिंग. So they are saying that कि जो भी subject matter theory building that you have, you don't build theory for the sake of theory building. You are building theory so that कि discipline can get relevance. और आपको वो अच्छा let like you think that you experience something, you formulated a theory, but whether that theory is relevant for the society. Yes. So whatever the theories should be formulated, they should directly solve the problems of society. That is what they mean by relevance, right? So the first 2 goals are related to subject, discipline, method, value should be normative, and subject should be relevant to society. Yes. And next 3 goals are related to society, you can say, means institution, let's say that. The first 2 goals are related to discipline. The next 3 goals are related to institution, public administration as an institution, let's say. So let's write this. Change. Change. The administration should work to bring change and administer change. the administration should work to bring change and administer change, which demands responsiveness, responsibility, democratization and decentralization in approach of administration. Bureaucracy is largely known for status quo. Or maintaining stability. Right. It is, you know that कि how bureaucracy, we have given example. देखो दोनों चीज होता है, चेंज लाना भी है और चेंज को एडमिनिस्टर भी करना है. दिस चेंज लाने से क्योस हो जाएगा, तो क्योस को एडमिनिस्टर करके स्टेबल बनाना हो. दिस otherwise what will happen? If you want to break status quo, if you are posted in any city, you break the status quo. Largely there is a status quo, you know that people are having whatever, you can say that you maintain a status quo. So 2 बार हो चुका है ये इंसिडेंट. अभी एक यूपी में होता है स्टैम्पेड एंड मोर देन 100 पीपल डाइड. राइट, तो ज़्यादा इमोशनल होने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. उसके पहले मान लो कि गुजरात में हुआ था, यू नो दैट कि fire, let's say fire incident, sports, I think it was a sports, let's say related place, let's say, and then how many people died there? तो more than 50 people died. ठीक है, फर्स्ट टाइम ये नहीं हुआ है. अगेन दैट्स व्हाई आई टोल्ड डोंट बिकम इमोशनल. स्टैम्पेड पास्ट में भी हुआ है और आगे भी होता रहेगा, इसलिए कि हम क्या मेंटेन करते हैं, स्टेटस क्यो. बस वी मेंटेन स्टेटस क्यो. स्टेटस क्यो क्या है, जो जैसा चल रहा है चलने दो. राइट, अब आप उसको चेंज करोगे ना, यू विल ब्रिंग, तब 2-4 दिन चेंज आपको दिखेगा. कहाँ, यूपी में. फिर उसके बाद क्या होगा, स्टेटस क्यो. वो चेंज क्या होता है, तो लेट्स टेक दैट. तो लास्ट ईयर आई गेस कि लास्ट ईयर मुखर्जी नगर में भी एक इंस्टीट्यूट में लेट्स फायर इंसिडेंट हुआ था. तो पहली बार तो हुआ नहीं है. राइट, एंड उसके पहले इधर ये इसी लाइन में होटल जो है लास्ट में, उसमें फायर इंसिडेंट हुआ था 4 साल पहले. दिस and 24 people died, including one IRS officer. ठीक है. सूरत वाला इंसिडेंट तो पता होगा. बस फिफ्थ लेट्स से दैट की स्टोरी, एंड दिस पढ़ने पढ़ाने का ही काम चलता था, isn't it? बच्चे थे. फायर इंसिडेंट एंड वहाँ भी 20-25 चिल्ड्रन डाइड. बस पहली बार ये नहीं हुआ है. तो आप काउंट कर सकते हो, पेपर वाले, न्यूज़पेपर वाले आपको लिस्ट दे देंगे कि लास्ट 10 ईयर्स में कहाँ कहाँ इंसिडेंट हुआ है. हाउ विल एड्रेस इट, व्हाई यू आर नॉट एबल टू एड्रेस इट, स्टेटस क्यो. व्हाट इज दैट स्टेटस क्यो? तो वी डोंट फॉलो फायर सेफ्टी नॉर्म्स. Nobody follows fire safety norms, and we don't enforce it. So since there is a culture of not following fire safety norms, और वो तब से कल्चर है जब ये फायर इंसिडेंट्स they were not so frequent, or they were density of population, it was not so let's say that the way we have. Now things have changed. You have big commercial places, many things are happening, let's say that. So you have, this is how the risk. Now a change has happened in society. 20 years में society काफी change हो गया. But आपका standard of enforcement has not changed. This, and you do not enforce when anyone has any such, let's say that anyone organizes any such gathering, so that organizer does not adhere to the SOP that you have prepared, and the officers also do not enforce. They do not enforce. अगर ऑफिसर एनफोर्स करने जाएगा तो पता ही है क्या होता है, isn't it? मतलब so so status quo is maintained. अगर आप एनफोर्स करोगे तो चेंज होगा, तो चेंज होगा तो कुछ लोग प्रोटेस्ट भी करेंगे, नहीं मानेंगे, नहीं फॉलो करेंगे, प्रॉब्लम होगा. This, so you have to enforce that also. So you have to bring change and you have to enforce change so that की stability remains. अब कोई enforce, कोई पंगा नहीं लेना चाहता, कोई एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर टेंशन नहीं लेना चाहता. Right? If the day you start enforcing laws so that you break the status quo, there will be necessarily protest in that area. Yes, some people will become unhappy, right? And you do not want to face those unhappy people. This, anyhow, to change, this is what will not come. अब चेंज का मैं आपको एक्सपीरियंस बताता हूँ. तो ये आपको जो दिख रहा है ना, फायर एक्सटिंग्विशर्स, राइट, तो ये उसी होटल के बाद होता है. दिस, नहीं तो पहले सिर्फ एक या दो होता था, राइट, पहले सिर्फ एक एंड 1 and 2, let's say that, but now good in number, right? So I doubt कि वो जब फायर होगा ऐसा तो वो काम करेगा कि नहीं, right? But we replace it every year. It is costly affair also, but we replace it. But I know not all people replace it because it is very costly. Means certain cost you have to bear every year without any use. मान लो 3-4 साल से ये चल रहा है, ये भी कभी भी इसका let's say we did not feel any need, so you pay money, replace it, pay money, replace it. That is how most of the people will not follow. जब वो आएंगे तो उनको कुछ पैसा पकड़ा दोगे. This, they are also happy, you are also happy, isn't it? That is how it is. Change you do not want. Anyhow, ये वर्क करता है. रिसेंटली हम लोगों ने एक्सपीरियंस किया. Right. So recently there were fire incidents, you know that, because of temperature going very high, so lots of fire incidents happen here and there. In that our old Rajanagar office, before that office there is another building. In that building that they had those PowerPoints, let's say, there were short, let's say that is something, PowerPoint, it caught fire, let's say that, fire incident. So basically one of our staff, he saw that. So he just immediately went to our, let's say, building and he took that one extinguisher and he just doused that fire. Otherwise, it could have become a major incident. So then I came to know कि काम भी करता है. Sorry to say that. So basically, let's say कि आप अगर इस चीज को enforce करना चाहते हैं, you have to apply lots of force behind it. Force मतलब force वाला नहीं. Force means क्या? You have to apply lots of mind, lots of energy, lots of activism. Time to time you have to go, but you don't have time. So the organizer in Uttar Pradesh also did not follow the SOP. और रिलीजन और SOP की बात करते हो, अजीब बात है. रिलीजन इज अबव लॉ. बस. तो जो भी रिलीजन वाले लोग हैं, किसी भी रिलीजन के, तो दे थिंक, उनको लगता है कि रिलीजन इज अबव लॉ. बस. तो अभी तक रूल ऑफ लॉ रिलीजन पे अप्लाई नहीं हुआ है. दिस इज हाउ यू शुड नो दैट. द स्टैम्पेड हैज हैपेंड. यू कैन काउंट सो मेनी स्टैम्पेड. एक तो मुंबई रेलवे स्टेशन पे ही स्टैम्पेड हो गया था. Right. This is how you should know that. Out of nothing, 100 people died. Since we are biggest populated country, it does not matter. This, this is how you should know. Sorry to say that. Why? Because again, it will happen somewhere. People don't adhere to. आपको पता ही होगा कि दिवाली के ओकेजन पे अमृतसर में हुआ था. This दशहरा, I think दशहरा right? And trains, there's two trains coming from two different directions. They maimed people like anything. This, does it matter? This, it does not matter. So do you think that thereafter the Dashera occasion when you are organizing, you follow the SOP? आपको भी जला देगा. Sorry to say. Anyhow, right. So anyhow, let's say that change you are able to understand. Let's write next. We are getting late. Right. Next point. Social justice. Social justice. Administration should work for. Downtrodden, vulnerable section of society. That is poorest of the poor. It was inspired by civil rights movement in the US. And it has also become an important objective. Of governance and development. In bracket, ninth five-year plan in India for the first time adopted social justice as objective. And the last, citizen orientation. Citizen-centricness, that administration should be responsive to the needs of the people. Administration should be responsive to the needs and problems of people. Which demands action-oriented behavior in terms of being proactive, responsible and responsive to solve the problems of people. Like Citizens Charter, RTI, social audit can be considered some citizen-centric initiatives. Some citizen-centric initiatives. Initiative. UJAS program. UJAS program by Jitendra Kumar Sone. Jitendra Kumar Sone in Nagaur district of Rajasthan. UJAS program by Jitendra Kumar Sone. In Nagaur district of Rajasthan can be considered a citizen-centric initiative. Citizen-centric initiative.